Rural Heritage on RFD TV is brought to you by Rural Heritage Magazine, a bi-monthly magazine featuring articles about farming and logging with draft animal power, small-scale diversified family farming and homesteading, and other aspects of our rich rural heritage. Rural Heritage Magazine, borrowing from yesterday to do the work of today. For subscription information, please call 319-362-3027 or order online at www.ruralheritage.com.
Horses can be agitated in a lot of ways, and we're not always sure of what's going on. You're lifting up a foot and they start jerking you around, throwing you around. Is that behavioral? Is it lameness? Is it lack of training? It's hard to define what creates it. It took a while in my career, but at one point I decided that I really wasn't a trainer, and it wasn't up to me to train the horse while I was shoeing it. I either needed to be trained. I showed up, my profession was shoeing horses, not training horses. I know that some of you are excellent trainers and could certainly do both at the same time, but that isn't my deal. I try to define what's going on. If I'm watching their ears, if their ears are back, if they're upset, if I've dragged their leg out too far or held them up too long, if that's what's creating it, and try to alleviate that tension in them. And if that doesn't work, well, maybe they need to see a veterinarian for a lameness diagnosis, or they need to go back to training. In this guy's case, early on when he was getting shoes, it was important to go out and drive him for about an hour before I went to work on him, just to take the energy out of him. Just like a young boy that's misbehaving, put him in a wood stack and have them split up a cord of wood, and the temperament changes pretty much dramatically. And sometimes that's important with our horses too. So try to define whether it's behavioral, lameness, agitation, make sure there's no flies on them, obstacles or noises around that are creating problems, maybe another horse that's making noise, or maybe a handler that's scared of the horse and is not doing a sufficient job. Some type of energy that's creating a problem. You know, I've made my career with horses. I owe my income for the last 40 years to horses, and I respect these horses, and I hope that you do too. My object in working on these horses is to give them a little better lifestyle. If I can prevent some soreness or lameness, if I can make their life a little better, that's what makes my days worthwhile. And at one point, I did get angry with horses that were misbehaving or not acting appropriately, and I would take it out on them. I found that is a waste of energy, and at the end of the day, I certainly hurt more than the horses did. So I have to make decisions throughout the day of whether this is something I need to deal with or not deal with. Because beyond all, create no harm and leave the horse off better than when you came. And sometimes leaving them better off is just saying this is beyond my circle of influence and walk away. So Pat is getting KERCKHAERT shoes today. And shoes come in a lot of various shapes and sizes. And it's important to know what size shoe your horse takes so that the appropriate shoe is purchased for them. Also, we need to define the thickness. When we define the width of web is defined traditionally by the thickness of the hoof wall. After I've taken it to uniform wall thickness, I want the width of web to be twice that width. So if he has a 1/2 inch thick hoof wall, I'm going to choose a shoe that's 1 inch wide. The thickness is defined by how heavy the horse is, how much wear and tear the horse puts on the shoes. We want the shoes to be of the lightest material that will last the duration of the shoeing period. So traditionally in the States we use a lot of 3/8 inch thick. I'm using 1/2 inch on him because he works in rough terrain in the woods and on the rocks. When I have finished the trim, the object is to have as symmetrical of a hoof as possible. We'll pick up that hoof, the heel's back a uniform distance. This is a size 8. I'm going to set that on there, and I feel it's a little long. I'll take a 7 and look at that, and this is more appropriate. If I clean up these checks right here, we'll have an appropriate shoe for that foot. This is 1/2 inch material. 1/2 inch material is difficult to shape without the assistance of heat, so I'll be using a forge to shape that with. So on his front, I'm using this KERCKHAERT workhorse plate, size 7, and the number is on the outside branch. So this shoe goes on the left front.
KERCKHAERT draft shoes, strong and reliable. Anytime your horses are working in rough terrain, the KERCKHAERT Draft Series is your most likely choice of horseshoes. With the strength to hold up and protect the hoof, the most demanding of environments won't overwork these shoes. To view the full line of KERCKHAERT horseshoes and to find a Farrier Products dealer near you, visit www.farrierproducts.com.
A uniform heat is helpful in shaping the shoe. I want to start at the toe first. And first I'm going to set that clip in at the same angle as the hoof wall. And then I looked at the shoe and the hoof while I had the shoe to the horse, and I needed to round up the outside corner here. So I'm going to allow a gap between the anvil and that shoe right there. I'm just going to tap down. I'm going to walk around like that, and that's going to round that up. I need to bring the heel in a little bit. So I'm going to go beyond that point. Hit beyond. What I'm doing is shaping. And I want to set down the inside width of web because we don't want pressure on the sole. I'm going to go to the inside branch, which was a little straighter. So just beyond the second nail hole, I'm using the flat side of the hammer. I'm going to hit just beyond there. I'm going to pull that shoe back so that the horn is under the last nail hole, and I'm going to hit down here, and that will straighten that branch out some. I'm going to bring the whole branch in just a little bit. Walk along the inside width of web to make sure that I have no sole pressure. I'm also going to hold the shoe up and look at the symmetry of that shoe. At this point, I can make sure that it's flat. I'll look across the shoe here. I'll look down the shoe here. We need 2 flat surfaces. The shoe needs to be flat. The hoof needs to be flat. I'm going to make adjustments. Check it again. And so this heel was bent down a little bit. In order to bring that heel up, at the point where it started bending down, I'm going to hit down here. That brings that heel up. Need to go some more. I'm going to move back into the shoe some more. Into here, hit down. And if we have appropriate heat on the shoe, we don't need to hold on to the hammer real tight. Loosen up your grip, let that hammer fall, and do its work. Once I have that shoe flat, I'm going to take some hot set tongs and go over to Pat and just get an idea of how we're doing. I can hold on to that hot shoe. That way I can come back to the anvil while the shoe is still hot and make adjustments without reheating the shoe. pull that up on his foot, and I'll just check it there. And I can see that I have to bring out the outside heel somewhat. I'm a little too close. And if you look at that shoe, I have a tight outside branch. So I've heated it right in this area exclusively. I'm going to put that on the horn, and right in here I'm going to hit, and now I'm pulling the tongs towards me. That brought out my outside heel. Once I've brought that out, bring it out a little more, and then I'm going to knock the end of the heel back in. Again, same procedure. Make sure it's flat this way, make sure it's flat this way, make sure the inside width of web is knocked down. And when I knock it down, I'm using the Bloom Forge hammer. The round side I use for knocking down the inside of that shoe. The flat side I'm using on the outside of the shoe. And I could stand to come out a little bit more. At this point I'll cross tong to the toe. I'll put that quarter on the horn, and I'm going to hit at the point where I want it to start coming out. Make sure it's flat. And check it to the foot again. The searing shows me the contact, but I'm also checking the edges to make sure that I don't have too much hanging out or I have a shoe underneath. I've taken the time from the solar surface to get a uniform wall thickness, to get that symmetry I'm looking for. By all means, shape your shoe up to that symmetry. And that's part of the beauty of this profession, is it's a great combination of art and science. You have to know the science of the anatomy, the function, the gaits, the usage of the horses, but you also have to have the art of being able to copy a shape, the art of being able to read the conformation and define what you need to do with that shoe to adjust that metal to fit the conformation of that horse.
KERCKHAERT draft shoes, strong and reliable. Anytime your horses are working in rough terrain, the KERCKHAERT Draft Series is your most likely choice of horseshoes. With the strength to hold up and protect the hoof, the most demanding of environments won't overwork these shoes. To view the full line of KERCKHAERT horseshoes and to find a Farrier Products dealer near you, visit www.farrierproducts.com.
With the rasp or grinder, I can come in and I can clean that shoe up. I could also choose to forge it so that if someone is inclined to take a hoof pick to the horse, the hoof pick can go through there. But it's also so that it's not an area that's going to collect stones. It's an area that, as horses are out in the pasture, that would be an area that would collect stones and debris from the pasture. I also want to make sure that the solar surface of the inside branch is rounded off. These KERCKHAERT shoes, it's already beveled well. Right back in here, touch it up some more. That way if the horse is to travel close or interfere, it's less likely to do damage. In the rasping process, it's highly likely that I've changed how flat it is, so I'll need to go back and adjust that. I'll check it to the hoof one more time, and then I'm going to let it air cool, because a big shoe like this, if I drop it in the bucket of water, it's going to change the dimensions dramatically. Usually about a ½ inch on this size shoe, and then I'd have to heat it up and go over the whole procedure again. So we'll test it and we'll let it air cool for a while. So in the spring, winter, Pat was on soft ground and snow and ice. He didn't need a pad, but once it starts drying up, the mud is gone, the ground gets hard, and he'll be doing some parades and things. We're going to put a leather pad on there. I like leather because it blends in with the hoof. It's a natural product, and it retains the hoof a lot better than plastics would for me. You need to choose the appropriate size. Choosing the right size is important so that you completely cover the bottom of the foot. So this would be appropriate for a saddle horse. I have a draft horse size. I'll put that on. The first thing I'm going to do is cut so I can put the clip in. I'm just going to mark each side of that clip, put a little mark on each side of that. Then I take my nippers, and I want to cut that at the same angle as the clip. Same angle as the clip. And then I'm going to cut across there. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut that clip in. I'm going to check it to see that it fits appropriately. We have that fit in there. Then I can turn it up and mark where I need to put it. Just draw a line around there. And leave it a little full, because with the prominent frog it's going to pull down the center, pull in the side, so I need them to be somewhat full for that to fit the horse. Mark the backside. If you have a pad cutter, that's great. You have a Sawzall or something like that, that works too. You can do a lot of this with the nippers. I use a European trimming knife and get that started. I can put that in there, tighten it up. And again, I'm going outside of the line. It's a lot easier to take some material off. I'll set that pad back on there. Then I'm going to use a couple of nails and just rivet it in place. You have enough things to hold on to when you're getting ready to shoe that horse without holding the pad in position too. Once I have that taken care of, then I'll rasp from the outside and clean that up even more. When applying a pad of any type, it's necessary to use a hoof packing. And the hoof packing goes between the pad and the hoof. When I put a pad on, I use the rough side towards the hoof, the smooth side of the leather towards the ground. This will hold the hoof a little better, gives you some friction against the hoof.
KERCKHAERT draft shoes, strong and reliable. Anytime your horses are working in rough terrain, the KERCKHAERT Draft Series is your most likely choice of horseshoes. With the strength to hold up and protect the hoof, the most demanding of environments won't overwork these shoes. To view the full line of KERCKHAERT horseshoes and to find a Farrier Products dealer near you, visit www.farrierproducts.com.
Get it down into the collateral sulcus, flatten it out. The great part about this packing is that it will further displace. So I'm going to put a couple of nails in, set this foot down, and that packing will fill every void between the pad and that hoof. And I'll take it forward. And I'll make sure I'll make sure it's where I want it to be. We're gonna have to back up a little bit so that we can keep you on the mat here. When I take it forward and put it on the stand, I want to make sure that I'm in the natural range of motion. Now I can blend that. All right. And then continue with the nailing process. This is an E-head nail, which is very square. But the stamp in this half-inch shoe is also E-head, European head. It's very important that your nail is the nail appropriate for the shoe you're using, and that fits tightly in there. I wring that nail off in case the horse was to be startled. This apron would just slow it down a little bit. Trademark in. At this point, I'll pull those nails out that I used as rivets. And continue with the nailing process. Pads are also used. Horses with arthritic conditions, it will reduce the concussion and allow them more comfort. Once I have those nails driven, then I'm going to use a clinch block and the urethane hammer, and I'm going to set those clinches. I'll walk from one corner around to the other. Tightens your shoe against the hoof and starts bending that nail for your clinch. Bring that forward in the natural range of motion. I'll use my clinchers to make sure all those nails are at a 90-degree angle out from the hoof wall. And then I'll use my finish rasp, my clinching rasp, and file them all the same length. Then I'll come underneath and just take the burr off. around and get this side too. Take that burr off. And then using the clincher, I'll bend those down. It folds them over and pushes them in. And that's what holds your shoe on. Tight clinch. And then I'll take my clinching rasp and smooth everything up. And we'll go to the back. This one up.
This program is available for purchase. To order your copy, please call 319-362-3027 or visit www.ruralheritage.com. Rural Heritage is a bi-monthly magazine dedicated to draft animal farming and logging, as well as other aspects of our rich rural heritage. It is published by Mishka Press, which also offers a complete line of back-to-the-land books, DVDs, and calendars. Call or write for a catalog or subscription information, or visit our website at www.ruralheritage.com.